Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Think your 401k savings plan is an actual plan for a worry-free retirement? Well, think again.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
One of the worst communication debacles in the field of retirement came in 1978 when Congress introduced a new way for Joe Lunchbox to save for retirement, something they labeled as the 401k savings plan. This new savings plan, which contained boatloads of risk never experienced by savers before, was now set to replace the tried and true savings plan of choice, a savings plan that guaranteed Joe Lunchbox and my granddad a guaranteed income in retirement that they would never outlive, something my granddad referred to as mailbox money. You see, up until 1978, savers like Granddad did not need nor want a 401k savings plan full of risky stocks, bonds, and mutual funds because they had their safe and dependable pensions. Why? Because the pension provided Joe Lunchbox a guaranteed income he could never outlive, something the 401k cannot do. This switch from the safety and security offered by guaranteed pensions to now a world full of risk and uncertainty offered by the 401k savings plan led some scholars to even label the 401k as a hoax. And while I wouldn't go that far as to say the 401k savings plan is a hoax, I would say this. As someone who has been in the field of retirement planning a long, long time, and have been able to watch the lives of thousands of retirees play out, I can emphatically state the following. Your 401k savings plan is not a plan at all. Let me explain. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, financial planner and fiduciary Tony Walker. And before I explain to you why the 401k is not a plan at all, let me introduce two young lads in the Worry-Free Retirement Studios who have a plan for the show each week. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orender, along with Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, let's imagine you are that typical saver who, after watching this TV show or listening to our weekly radio show, takes the leap of faith by contacting Tony Walker Financial to take us up on our free offer for a second opinion. Now, assuming we were meeting here today, the first question I might ask you is this. Is your 401k savings plan really a plan at all? Well, as you'll find out today, the answer is no. The 401k savings plan, while admittedly a great plan to save for retirement, does nothing to help savers plan for retirement and to make sure that the money lasts as long as they do. In other words, your 401k savings plan is not a plan at all, which is why we have worked so hard over the years to carve out our niche and our reputation as a firm that truly offers retirement planning services. You know, our specialty at Tony Walker Financial is helping savers take that 401k savings plan and actually turning it into a spending plan, a plan that gives you permission to use and enjoy your money before it's too late, while at the same time making sure you don't run out of money, just like Granddad's pension. We call it
mailbox money!
So assuming you are retired or retiring soon and concerned that you have no plans on how to turn that 401k savings plan into a guaranteed secure spending plan, let me invite you to stay tuned as we show you how to create a plan that you can count on, not just when you retire, but a plan that'll last all the way through it. I'm Tony Walker. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement, and we will be right back. Did you realize that if you have more than $250,000 in retirement assets, the government could tax as much as 40% of it when you go to take it out? And with current tax rates set to expire in 2025, the taxes you will owe on your 401k could climb even higher. Don't wait until 2025 to see how much Uncle Sam will take of your money. Get a game plan by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Hello everyone, my name is Beth Wisman and I'm the onboarding specialist here in the Louisville office. One of my main duties at Tony Walker Financial is after a prospective client meets with Tony and decides to move forward with his recommendations. I am the person that steps in to assist in gathering all information needed to move the client's money from their current 401k or other investments over to Tony Walker Financial. After assisting Tony in this onboarding process and in working with all the other great staff here at Tony Walker Financial who are involved in the onboarding process, I can assure you that you'll be pleased with our professionalism and the expertise we bring to the table in making sure that the process is seamless for you. Rest assured, when you decide to move your money to us, I'll personally be there every step of the way to be sure your information is accurate and things are set up the way you want them to be for you and your family. I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Webster's Dictionary defines a plan as follows: a method for achieving an end, a customary method of doing something, a procedure, a detailed formulation of a program of action, and finally, a goal or an aim. Interesting as we think about the risky and unpredictable 401k savings plan introduced to Joe Lunchbox back in 1978, Joe Lunchbox soon realized that the 401k was no plan at all, as evidenced by the huge hit it took back in 2008, depleting many savers' 401k plans by as much as 50% in value. Not what I'd call a worry-free retirement. For sure, to be worry-free in retirement, one must have some sort of plan to save for retirement, and for you, that's fine if you have most of your money in a 401k savings plan. But still, having a bunch of money stockpiled inside a tax-infested savings plan does not get you where you want to be in retirement. And that is the feeling like you have a spending plan, something that puts you more in control of your money and hopefully more control over your future. And since the 401k savings plan cannot guarantee this, that's where we at Tony Walker Financial come in to provide the expertise savers are looking for in creating a retirement game plan that allows them to minimize taxes, lower fees on their money, and more importantly, to show them how to use and enjoy this money before it's too late and without the fear of one day running out. So the challenge is how to turn that savings plan into a plan without watching that plan disappear over time. And while no one can predict if we'll ever go through the devastating effects of another stock market crash like we did back in 2008, the real question is, why would you want to take all this risk moving forward if you don't have to? Well, the reason most savers continue to risk way too much of their money in retirement is because they've confused their retirement savings with a retirement game plan. In fact, when I return, I'm going to share with you why having a spending plan in retirement will allow you to use more of your money now versus later. And there's something we're going to talk about called the law of diminishing returns, and actually how saving more and more money for the future can actually cost you more and more money today. I'm Tony Walker. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. We will be right back.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, 403b, thrift savings account, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For almost 40 years, Retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
And now it's time for Tony in the Trenches. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. I am America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Ornder, and I've got our next Tony in the Trenches right here, so let's get to it. This TNT comes to us from Stephen in Louisville. Tony, I recently retired from a company I worked with for over 30 years. The people who currently handle my 401k want me to move it to them with an IRA. Is this something I should do? And if not, what would be the advantages of rolling over that 401k to you?
When it boils down to it, there's only 3 options with the 401k plan. Now, I wouldn't suggest this. The simplest thing you could do is just literally cash it out and tell your 401k custodian to send you a check, which they will. So let's take a look at this, though. This is pretty costly. Let's say you have a 401k worth $400,000 and you don't want to mess with the thing and you just want to cash it out. Well, based on the current tax laws, you're going to owe about 40% in taxes. In other words, between state and federal taxes, that 401k would quickly only be worth about $240,000. And with current tax laws set to expire in 2025, let me ask you a very important question moving forward. With our nation's debt now at over $34 trillion and climbing, do you think taxes in the future will go up or do you think they'll go down? Well, if you're like me, you probably feel like Uncle Sam will raise taxes in the future, not lower them. And seeing as though just leaving your money and hoping taxes won't go down or go up in the future is not really an option, what other options do you have? Well, the second option is you can actually leave it with the firm and let them roll it over to an IRA for them to manage. Now, when you do this, there can be a problem with this because usually they're going to charge additional fees. The other problem is you're going to have a 1-800 number in many cases to deal with, or the firm is not going to be a locally independent-owned firm that you can meet in person with fiduciaries trained in the art of retirement planning. So yeah, I guess you could just have the 401k keep it or roll it over into an IRA and let them manage it. But again, I don't think you're going to get the personal service and attention to detail that we offer, which leads to our third option, and that is rolling it over to an independent planning firm like Tony Walker Financial, and more importantly, that can provide this written game plan. Folks, here's what's going to happen. When you get into retirement, everything's going to change. You're going to now have to understand how to take that tax-infested 401k plan, spend and use and enjoy it without the fear of running out. You're going to have to try to keep your fees down, your taxes down. There is a lot involved in retirement planning, which is why we suggest working with a local firm to handle that 401k plan. So you might be sitting there saying, well, Tony, yeah, what is your process? I've got a 401k still sitting over at my previous employer, or I just learned that I can roll over that 401k because I'm over the age of 59 and a half. What is the process you all go through to take that money and roll it over to an individual IRA with Tony Walker Financial? Well, to help us with that, in our Louisville offices, we actually have a rollover specialist by the name of Craig Davis who's going to walk us through the steps on how to roll over that 401k to Tony Walker Financial.
Generally speaking, rolling over a 401k here at Tony Walker Financial is a pretty easy process. I reach out to the client, make sure they've got time in their schedule for a 15-minute phone call. Then we do a conference call to their custodian. The custodian asks a few security questions. They want to make sure that they can have a discussion with me on the line. They always talk about something called a special tax notice or your rollover options if somebody's seen that in the last 6 months or so. So we prepare people for some of the questions that they'll get when they're on the call. Then we confirm the amounts, whether or not it's all pre-tax or if they have Roth money in there. And then we work through the process of how the funds will be delivered. Generally, it's through a paper check. People are still often quite surprised about that. They expect something a little bit more electronic. But paper check to the client, then you get the check to us. We deposit it electronically, and it just is that smooth.
Incidentally, for a great read on the whole subject of 401k rollovers, I've written a little booklet. You can find it at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You can simply go to the download section. It is literally called 401k Rollovers Made Easy. All right, the key ingredient to a solid retirement plan, or for any plan for that matter, is as follows. Let's take a look at some of the bullet points here. First of all, it's understanding the terrain ahead. I mean, let's face it, folks, before you take any journey, you better understand what lies ahead. And one of the things we do as retirement planning specialists in working with so many savers is we know what lies ahead for our clients, and we set up stopgap measures to try to protect them as best we can. The second thing you've got to do is expect the best, but plan for the worst. I love the old quote from Will Rogers who said, always expect the worst and you'll never be disappointed. And what we mean by that is, folks, you can't be out here assuming 7, 8, 9, 10% rate of returns in retirement. You have to be very conservative, and you have to assume bad things could happen and make sure the plan can withstand these types of changes that could come your way. Number 3, to be prepared, you have to understand that change will happen. As my father used to say, nothing stays the same. And in working with so many retirees in retirement plans, when those changes come up, it's wonderful that we can pull up this retirement game plan. The staff immediately gets on the same page, and we can work through the plan as those changes come your way. And then lastly, when you're dealing with planning for the future, you have to have this written game plan in your possession. Here's the problem, folks. Many of you are coming to us for a second opinion. We appreciate that very much. But you're running out and you're buying annuities, or you're moving all your money into these money management programs. You have no idea what the costs are, what the fees are, how long you're going to be stuck in some of these annuities, and you're still worried. And you're saying, Tony, I'm still worried. What is the problem? The problem is you don't have a written game plan. So again, we can offer that written game plan. It's absolutely free to those who qualify. So again, if you want to see if you qualify for that free written game plan, let's at least talk by phone. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started. We'll arrange a free phone call, and then if it warrants, we are going to meet in person and get you that free retirement game plan. It's a game changer, believe me. All right, this is interesting. We talk a little bit about this idea of stockpiling money for the future, but did you realize there's something that can happen in your plans for the future? That's right, that you actually have too much money. It's called the law of diminishing returns. So let's walk over to the whiteboard. I want to explain this concept right now. So the law of diminishing returns, it's an interesting phenomenon. And if we're talking about a 401k savings plan, you would think the idea is to accumulate and stockpile as much money as you can for as long as you can, which when I meet people, this is what they've been instructed by the financial world to do. But you have to realize this concept of stockpiling more and more money for the future really benefits the financial world because they get to hold on to your money longer and longer. And as we're going to see, it actually costs you more money to not spend it early. This is why you need a retirement game plan that includes a spending plan from someone that's a retirement planning specialist. As I like to say all the time, retirement planning is more of an art than a science. So let me give you an idea of what happens here. And let's just take a typical 401k plan, okay? And let's say you have $500,000 in it, and you're age 55, and you're socking money in there like crazy. Maybe you're in a high tax bracket, you're getting a great match, and again, the 401k is a great way to save for retirement. So all of a sudden you get to be age 65, and now that thing's grown to $1 million, okay, and you're excited about that. Maybe you're starting to cut back on work, you maybe start Social Security, maybe have a little pension, you have some part-time income, you've paid off your house, and you're sitting there going, don't really need the money. I don't have to take it out, do I, and pay all those taxes until I turn 73, right, Tony? And I'd say, well, yeah, you could put off the pain till 73, so let's just let it keep growing. And by the way, this happened. Actually, I'll use the exact example. Someone came in the other day. She is worth $1.5 million, age 70, and gloating that she hasn't had to touch this. And I said, why have you not had to touch it? She said, I haven't needed it. Now, on the one hand, I said, but do you realize what's buried inside that thing? And she said, well, no, not really. So let's look at the law of diminishing returns. Again, we had $500,000 here. That's real money. I'm going to put real money. And then when we get to age 70, it becomes what I like to call funny money.
Did he just say funny money?
And here's why. Because all of this growth still hasn't been taxed, so you still have taxes due. Assuming you're with a typical money manager, even our Charles Schwab program, folks, we still make money whether you do better or worse because we're charging 0.8%. What if somebody's charging 1.5%? Now it's all this money being charged, these fees. Most of you still have a lot of risk, so you have all these fees going on. You have even more risk. Remember in 2008, what if you lost half of 1.5 million? That's a lot of money. And then you have the stealth tax. This is the worst one of all, inflation. So as it feels like you have more and more money, taxes in the future are uncertain. Fees, depending on more money you make, the more they're going to take. Risk, if you continue to take more risk, that means you could just lose more money. And finally, inflation, as evidenced by what's going on as we record this show in 2024, is literally going to eat your lunch. Then finally, we have the last issue, and that is time. Folks, as you get older, I'm just telling you this because I have a lot of clients that are over the age of 70. As you get into what I call the second half of life, if you don't spend and use this money, the law of diminishing returns, actually through time and the inability to enjoy it, takes over. So if you're sitting there saying, well, Tony, I've never thought about this idea of the more money I have, the worse it actually could get. Well, that means you need a game plan that allows you, as we've expressed in our book, Live Well, Die Broke, to use and enjoy this money before it's too late. And then within that game plan, we're going to put that beloved mailbox money in to make sure you don't run out of money in case you live a long, long time. So why don't you do this? Get a game plan now, or at least let's just talk by phone. It's easy to do. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or give us a call anytime to arrange that free phone call. Well, what does the Bible say about our plans? Well, it reminds us that when we plan for the future, God definitely has a sense of humor. Let me get a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. There's an old saying about us mixing our personal plans with the plans that God might have in store for us, and it goes something like this. You want to make God laugh? Well, tell him about your plans. But Tony, you might say, you just spent the last 20 minutes talking about the importance of having a plan for retirement. Are you now saying that Christians should not be planning for their future? Well, of course not. In fact, the Bible is clear that just like the ants of the world who are instructed to work hard and stockpile stuff for the future, so are we. We just got to remember not to leave God out of the equation. You know, someone who has learned the hard way about leaving God out of my plans for the future, Scripture is quick to remind me of what happens when I do. Check out Jeremiah 29:11, where God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope." How about this? Psalm 45, where David says, "Many, O Lord, my God, are the wonders you have done and the plans you have." And then there's Jeremiah 45:5, which warns of the following when we set out to accomplish our goals and plans for the future. "But as for you, do you seek great things for yourself? If so," he says, "to stop seeking." I guess as I think of our futile plans to try to plan our futures, It might be best summed up in the old saying, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. So the question is, how do we, who claim to trust in God to provide for our futures, strike a balance between taking responsibility to work hard and save hard for them, but at the same time be sure not to leave God out of the process? Well, in my own life, I've learned the following. First, acknowledge that no man can predict nor truly determine the future. Sorry to tell you this, folks, but no matter how much we plan, unless, of course, you have a crystal ball like I do, there will be things that will come up that we never dreamed about that will change the course of those plans. The second step to be worry-free about our future is to remember that when it comes to money, there is one fact, and it's called the law of diminishing returns. That is, over time, our money will be worth less and less. In fact, if you look back to the richest man who ever lived, King Solomon, here's how he summed up the law of diminishing returns. Basically, he said, it's all vanity. And finally, to be actively planning for your future without worrying so much about the outcome of your plans, we must always remember to put our hope and trust in God to see those plans through. As Jesus reminds us, the best thing we can do after setting up those plans, you guessed it, is turn those plans over to God. And that, my friend, is some good news you and I can take to the bank. Amen? Well, what about you right now? You might be sitting there saying, Tony, I agree with you. I need a plan for the future, and I always thought the 401k was the cat's meow of plans, and now I realize it's no plan at all. Well, if that's you, friend, if you've got a 401k, maybe a 403b, 457, thrift savings account, or maybe you've got an IRA out there that no one has written a plan around. If you don't have a plan to deal with the taxes, lowering the fees, making sure you use and enjoy this money before it's too late, then we need to talk. And we've made this so easy, we call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. Here's how easy it is to talk to me, Tony Walker, the owner of the company. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that little red box. That information will be confidentially sent to our offices, and we will arrange that phone call with you and I. And if it warrants, after that phone call, if I think we can be of help, we're going to meet in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So do it right now. Get a plan in place. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or if the internet's not your thing, just give us a call toll-free anytime at 877-499-9255. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. We've enjoyed being with you, but you remember, as always, if all else fails between now and next week, you be worry-free and make it a good one.